Adrian?
Adrian, looking at some stats, in the Big Ten, Nebraska's not the only team that's been struggling in the red zone. I was just kind of curious, what's it take? The field gets so compact down there. What's it take to be successful down in that inside the 20?
Yeah, part of that's awareness. Like you said, the field shrinks, so each play matters that much more. You have to execute and be really precise on the details. There's less room for error already in the Big Ten, so in the red zone, that margin for error is even smaller. So just really have to be dialed in and execute.
When you say less error or less margin for error in the Big Ten versus what other leagues and why?
Yeah, part of that's a style of play. I do believe that the level of play is really high in the Big Ten, and on top of that, a lot of teams play. They have the ball for a long time, the time of possession, so your possessions are cut down. You have to make those plays, those possessions count. So that extends to the red zone and making those opportunities you get to score count and get points out of them.
Did you see the 9 overtime game?
I did. I saw a little bit of that, and it's pretty nuts. And the fact that it was 20-18. Yeah.
Does that kind of, it's an extreme example, but does that kind of like emphasize, the point you're making about how difficult it can be to score in that kind of small space and basically, what you face week to week in the Big Ten?
Definitely, 100%. I mean, it speaks to it. It's a great example of it and just how difficult it can be to score and get quality plays down there. But it's incredibly important.
I know you don't like to make excuses. Scott said last week that you were a little bit beat up. Did you feel like your physical health affected anything against Minnesota? And then I guess second, how much did it help you personally from that standpoint?
Yeah. I definitely wasn't 100%, but you rarely are in football, right? So there's no excuse to not play at the level that I'm accustomed to playing and want to play at. I did feel like I wasn't as dynamic as a runner going into that game, but still was able to do the things I wanted to do. If I felt like I couldn't, I wouldn't have played. So there's no excuse there. And additionally, the bye week was very helpful, I think, for everyone, not only physically but mentally. Maybe take a little bit of a break and get ready for this last 4 weeks.
Was there ever a point in the week of that Minnesota game where you thought you might not be able to play?
In my mind, I knew I was always going to play Saturday.
In terms of running the ball, have you approach it any differently than you have in the past? And I'm not talking about like going forward now, but over the last few weeks, do you feel like you're just better at avoiding taking big hits in the open field, or have you consciously thought about trying to avoid taking hits?
Yeah, it's about being a little smarter, knowing when to maybe take some of those big hits off. And that's just, maybe it's with experience and just realizing it's a long season and knowing that I have to be a factor in the run game and I can't afford to miss games for my team. So little things, maybe that's getting down a little early. Maybe it's finding a way to avoid those big hits from some of the guys in the Big Ten.
You guys are on a run now, facing a set of really good pass rushers. You've got another this week with Karlaftis from Purdue. What kind of challenge is that, not just for your tackles, but what sort of pressure does a player like that put on an offense as a whole?
Yeah, I will say, you sort of mentioned it, that this is another week of having a dynamic edge rusher, and that's sort of the Big Ten. It's a part of this league. It's a part of what we face week in and week out. So we played special players like that before, and it's no different this week. We're going to have to attack him, attack their defense, and really be able to execute. He's a really good player, and he has an incredibly high motor. So just attacking it and realizing where he's at on the field.
Coach, you talked about fighting for inches, so close, one last inch. When you think about him saying that, I'm sure he said it to you guys too, what kinds of things flash in your mind about what's important in that last inch?
Yeah. Well, it's about every play. We've had a couple big moments where there was one play that stood out that may have seemed as if it lost us the game, but it's the plays leading up to that, and each play matters. That's sort of how I take it. When it's 1st and 10, fight for that extra yard to make it 2nd and 3 instead of 4. When it's 3rd third down, fight for the first down, goal line, whatever it may be, fighting for those extra yards could make a big difference on the next play.
When you're a leader, how hard is it to maintain patience and believe the team's gonna come around the corner and being impatient and urgent as the season's, running out and there's only 4 games left? How do you find that line? Is it sometimes hard to toe it?
Yeah, you need to always have a sense of urgency, and we haven't lost that. We've had that at the beginning of the year, and we have it right now. There's a sense of patience when it comes to where this program is and where we know we can be, where we want to be, and having confidence in that. The urgency can't stop, and it won't stop. We obviously need this win, and it's a huge game for us.
Adrian, you've had a couple of coaches in the past, I think 3 weeks, 3 games, who've had some words with you, private words with you after the game, opposing coaches that you've faced many times. What's what sense of appreciation or what kind of message, just in general, are you getting from those guys as you make your way through this?
Yeah, generalizing it, it's about respect and about an appreciation for toughness and some of the things I've been through here and I've battled through, which I genuinely appreciate. And it's always a good thing to get that sort of recognition and appreciation. Now, some of those things came after we lost the game, and, maybe they're just being nice. It is what it is. I really don't put too much into it, but it is nice to hear from opposing coaches that they respect my game.
One was after you guys blew out Northwestern with Fitz. Did either one of those encounters catch you off guard?
Not necessarily off guard. I was sort of embraced in both, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but I genuinely appreciated the words they had to say to me.
When you have a bye week and you can step back a little bit, do you, knowing that it could be or it might not be the last game, does that creep into your mind at all about these could be the last 4? Maybe you know, maybe you don't, but does that enter your thought process at all?
Not necessarily. I might use a little bit of that to even increase the sense of urgency. Like I alluded to earlier, it's really important to emphasize that with our team, with myself. Now, I'm not necessarily thinking about the bigger picture and what that could all mean, whatever it is. The focus has to be on this week. But, yeah, hey, what if it's sort of football, you never know when it's your last snap, your last game. So taking that approach, a little bit of that as well, just having that sense of urgency and really appreciation for where I'm at and making sure to enjoy the moment.
So you gonna postpone any decision-making about that till after the season, or have you already?
Oh, 100% that's after the season. There are too many things that are way more important than that right now.
Adrian, you guys had a little team meeting with coaches, whatever, and what's the sense amongst the players and stuff? You guys talk bowl much, or obviously you can't get to a bowl without Purdue, but did you talk big picture now that you've had a week to do that?
No, I don't think we're in a position to do that personally. We can't afford to have any attention on anything else besides Purdue. We need this win, and ultimately, if we want to go to a bowl game, we need to beat Purdue. So simple as that for us. All attention on Purdue.
Yes, Adrian. Thank you, guys.